We are a Brussels-based NGO, and we have a mission to give the floor to young people who have an expertise in certain fields. And when we organize these kind of debates, we really like to have young panelists. As you see, this time we really managed to fulfill this mission. And also, we are really proud that our audience is full of young people who just started their career in Brussels. We try to have an event each month. Currently, we are preparing another one about German, about elections or coalition talks or whatever it's gonna evolve. We don't know yet, but please subscribe to our newsletter via our page, or follow us on Facebook, on Twitter to get tuned about our events. And now I would like to introduce our panelists. First of all, I would like to introduce our moderator, Nicolas Balsal-Gavilian, who is a Robert Schuman trainee at the European Parliament. He studied at London School of Economics and Bath University. And then Alex Sari Caramago, he is the advisor to MEP Ramon Tremosa since 2011, so he has a huge expertise in Brussels affairs. He's working on economics, finances, and monetary policy, and he has also published 2 books. One of them has just appeared a month ago. Its name is Why Europe Fails: State Centralism Against Integration. And he also wrote 3 years ago another book called La Unión Europea in Peril, so European Union in Danger. And he's from Catalonia, and I think he's going to say more about his point of view soon. Marc-André Desmarais, he is also working in the European Parliament. He's originally from Canada, from Quebec, but he has an expertise in Scotland. He's working for a Scottish MEP, and he used to live and studied in Scotland. Before he worked in the Parliament, he worked as a journalist and also told history, what he studied at the University College London and Montreal and the Sorbonne University in Paris. And last but not least, I would like to introduce Vincent Laborderie, who has an expertise on regionalism with a strong focus on Flemish issues. He is currently the Deputy Director of Centre d'études politiques économiques et sociales, and he's also visiting professor at Université Catholique de Leuven. He studied over there international relations, and he did his dissertation on Kosovo. Recognition of Kosovo. Thank you very much. So now I give the floor to Nicolas to introduce a little bit the topic, and well, once again, very welcome. And when the debate is over, we would like to invite you for a drink. Thank you very much.
So before I give the floor to the speakers for a brief presentation on the topic, let me just review the sequence of events that has happened in the past few weeks on Catalonian independence. So, as you all know, on October 1st, there was a referendum, an unconstitutional referendum held in Catalonia. The turnout was 43%, it's about 2.2 million people participated, and they overwhelmingly supported independence, over 90% of those who took part. That led a few weeks later to a unilateral declaration of independence by the Catalan Parliament on October 27th that was immediately followed by the application of Article 155 of the Spanish Constitution, which effectively suspended the Catalan autonomy. Now we are waiting for elections on 21st of December, regional elections, and we'll see what happens after that, of course. Now, tonight we're here to explore the impact of the Catalan referendum and more broadly the pro-independence movement in Catalonia on the EU. And to do so, I'd like to ask the speakers to focus on the following 4 questions. So first, to what extent is regionalism and its most developed aspiration being separatism compatible with EU integration, both in principle and in practice. Second, how does regionalism interact with the EU, and what does that tell us about the EU as it stands? Third, how does Catalan separatism affect other regionalist and separatist movements in the EU? And finally, what is the future for the regions in Europe and separatism as an ideology and the EU as a whole? So that's basically the content that maybe the speakers can cover. Of course, you can address any other questions that you like. So let me now give the floor to Aleix, who will talk about Catalonia and give his views on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicolas, and thank you, I don't see Andrea, but the whole Center for European Progression for this fantastic event that they have organized. I think it's a very great opportunity because many times it's difficult to find events in an informal way where we can talk about issues that are important for us today. Sometimes we rely only on CEPS, Bruegel, so it's good that a small think tank like this can organize such a big event. Thank you everyone for being here, being interested in Catalonia. I think it has changed a lot, the interest in Catalonia in the last few years. And it's amazing to see how many people are ready to debate and listen and talk about regionalism, independentism, I don't like the word separatism, and the relation with the European Union. I think this is a question that has been very much in the table of Catalans for many years. Catalan people, as you may know, has been always pro-European and has always addressed for many years, since at least 1986, the issue of how a region like Catalonia, a region with a strong identity inside a bigger member state, can be a part of the European Union in a meaningful way. How can we make a contribution? For many years, we had different presidents that tried different ways to approach it. We had a nationalist president called Pujol, another one socialist called Maragall. Both of them believed very much in the 90s, in 2000s, early 2000s, in the power of regionalism inside the EU. They spoke a lot about the Committee of the Regions. They spoke a lot about the Europe of the Regions. They spoke so much about it that many people in Catalonia thought it was a reality. In fact, many people in Catalonia came to the perception that there was really a Europe of the Regions that existed politically or institutionally. Well, what we have seen in the last few years is that that vision that many Catalans had was false. What we have seen since 2009, 2010 has been that, in a way, we have discovered that the real power in the European Union is with member states, not with the Commission, not with the Committee of the Regions, not in the regions. There's not a Europe of the regions. It doesn't exist. This can be in a paper. You can write it in a paper, but in reality, it doesn't exist. We would like, many of us, that it was a reality, but it's not. And this has been one of the issues that have made that Catalonia and many Catalans have made a step forward towards the desire to have an independent state. Many Catalans have realized that it's not possible to interact with the European Union directly or do a contribution in a meaningful way without having a member state inside the European Union. That just being a region leaves you aside. It doesn't give you the real opportunity to have an impact, a real impact on politics, a real impact on the debates, a real possibility to interact directly with European institutions. And this is why many Catalans that are very pro-European have decided that the best way for Catalonia to be part of the European Union is to become an independent state. Of course, it's not only about not having intermediaries, it's not only about being pro-European, it's about many other things. Many of you probably know our relation, the relation of the Catalan region with the Spanish state, especially with the Madrid government. And many of you probably remember that since 2003, the Catalan parliament and the Catalan government have tried to reach new levels of self-government inside of Spain. Many of you probably have heard of the new Center for Autonomy of Catalonia in the 2000s. Also, it was tried to have a new fiscal deal inside of Spain, later on a referendum, and always the answer has been no. So, the movement in Catalonia to become independent has always been a movement not only to attract power from Madrid, that we believe it's wrong, but also to be more connected to the world. Also to open more Catalonia to the rest of Europe, to be able to interact more directly with them. So it's a mix of different things. And I think it's important to remember, because many times they try to mix it up with Brexit or other movements, and it's really amazing to hear that, because the Catalan people is a people that is really inclusive, I would say, that do not rely on a single identity, where everyone can feel at home. And even I would say that probably is the only place where last year there was a demonstration pro-refugees. I don't know if you remember, but there was a big demonstration in Barcelona. I think it was the beginning of this year even. I don't remember well. But there were 200,000 people in the streets of Barcelona supporting that more refugees arrive to Catalonia. So it's society really inclusive, open, in a commercial trading way, but also in a human way, that tries just in this moment of time to be more connected with the world, more connected with globalization, be more able to adapt itself, and at the same time more connected with the European Union. What's the relation of this with the European Union? What's going on with the European Union? I think that's something, the presenter said that I wrote a book called Why Europe Fails. State Centralism Against European Integration, it's called. Well, basically, what we are seeing today is that the most centralized states are the states that are doing two things that are going against the future of Europe and against the future of European integration. The first one of them is that the centralized states are precisely the ones that are complying less with European legislation at this point in time, in general. So it means that there is more divergence in the application of EU law, and there is more divergence in economic and social terms. That's the first thing. You can see it in many ways. You can see it with big projects, like for example the banking union. With one hand we give power to Europe, but with the other we take it away. With one hand we say the ECB is going to be a supervisor of the European banks. But in reality, who has the inspectors? Who has the power to control the banks? The national supervisors. With one hand we say, from now on, the European bailouts of banking are going to be decided at the European level. But when the moment arrives, the government of Italy bails out Monte Paschi and the small Veneto and Vicenza banks. So, with one hand we seem to give power to Europe, with the other we take it away. And there is another thing that is even more important. Many people today are worried about the growth of populism in Europe, with good reason. But we should think of what are the reasons behind this growth. If we look at the map, if we look at where is populism growing in Europe, it's not in Berlin, it's not in Paris, it's not in Rome, it's not in London. It's in the peripheral regions of these countries. It's in the regions that depend more and more from transfers, where the best people leave their towns, where they are more depopulated, not only demographically, but also economically. What do you mean with this? I mean that centralized states like Spain, but not only Spain, Greece, France, England, because England is a very centralized state, not the UK, yeah, England, in a way, centralizing all political power, are centralizing also the tax powers, that centralize the banking system, the biggest enterprises, the design of infrastructures, and this in the medium term is creating the population in the regions. I saw yesterday in Twitter that, or the day before, that in Madrid there was a big demonstration from people from Extremadura. Extremadura is a region from Spain that's quite poor, and they were demonstrating because they didn't have a good train. Because they are out of the big lines of Spain, and they are only able to go to Madrid, and not even that. But they don't have any connection to Portugal, that is their neighbor. They cannot go to Andalusia. that it's deniable. They cannot move, but why? And is this at the root of the fact that they cannot attract investment? Is centralism at the core of the lack of investment in many places? Would you invest in a place where the best people live, that is not connected to the world, that doesn't have their own economic strategy, that doesn't have university? My answer is no. I think no. And this is also one of the reasons, coming back to Catalonia, why so many Catalans want to leave Spain. Because many Catalans see this process and have tried to revert it, and they have failed. Because Catalonia is not Flanders. Catalonia is not Veneto. Catalonia, in the last 200 years, only had prime ministers of Spain for 2 years. So 1% of the time. We have had 3 prime ministers. One of them was exiled, the other died, and the other was like 6 months there. So it's a structural minority inside Spain. It's not able to change the constitution by itself. And when for 15 years it has only received negative answers to all proposals for more self-government, at last, in the end, many people have said, then let's do the referendum ourselves. When you have
territory, in the case of Scotland, there are 2 big things: actors, first of all, and also uncertainties. This is mostly based on what I've seen during the IndyRef1 independence campaign and afterward, all the way through IndyRef2, which Nicola Sturgeon said would happen last March and cancelled after the general election. So mostly uncertainty, first of all, it was just quite simple that no one really knows what was going on. If Scotland would have become independent, no one would have had any idea what would have been the process for Scotland to join the EU. Would it have been the same as a non-EU country? Would it have to go through internal procedures, which would have required special arrangements with member states, or negotiations with the United Kingdom before full independence? So also the conditions. The UK has opt-outs from the EU. It pays, for instance, less taxes than other EU countries. Would Scotland be able to have something similar? It's very doubtful. But at that time, these questions were left unanswered. No one really knew. And you had tons of politicians in the EU, in Scotland, in the UK, all around the place that would bring arguments, but then no official EU structure would have been able to say exactly this is the way it's going to happen and this is the path you have to take. So the other problem was also with the whole idea that member states, internal matters in member states is out of bound for the EU. It was not allowed to say anything. It shouldn't have to say anything either. It's problematic for the UK, it's also problematic for other member states. And ultimately, even though the EU had very important issues regarding Scottish independence, especially regarding EU citizen rights, no answers were given and people were kept in the dark. So the essential procedure would have been, as I said earlier, either when Scotland became independent or through negotiations with other member states, through changing some of the treaties, which that idea would have entailed crucial Anglo-Saxon, Anglo-Scottish teamwork in this situation where London would not hinder Scotland's progress towards EU membership. So this idea on member states is also relevant, considering that ultimately member states would have had to vote on Scotland joining the EU. Specifically, Spain might have regarded that issue as, well, Scotland as a danger for its own territory, for Catalonia, for other regions in Spain. And understandably, I think nation states are always reluctant to cede power to regions, and also to see regions secede from their their power. So I remember there was the Spanish Foreign Minister at that time said that what was crucial in deciding whether they would vote for or against a possible Scotland. If these were just ideas, it was just things they were speaking about. But the most important thing was that the attitude the UK would have towards Scotland. It would have been crucial in deciding how Spain would have voted, but also France, Germany, and other EU countries, simply because there's the respect of member states and respect of nation states, whether it's their will or not, which does show some of the complexity there is with nationalism and independence within member states in the EU. When you have actors, member states, which refuse to recognize the independence of countries, of regions, of government that proclaim it themselves, it does not legitimate the whole situation. And what we've seen in the case with Catalonia reveals some incompatibility of this scenario of regional independence and European integration. So I think realistically, the impact of Catalonia's referendum is likely to be negative towards regionalism, seeking independence from nation states. I think it would probably deter movement within Europe, throughout Europe, simply because, well, the EU stood its ground. It stuck to the assertion that it would not intervene within member states' affairs, and especially considering what we've seen in Catalonia, what we call, some people call, I do call it brutal, excessive force, abuses sometimes. It's much revealing that the EU does not intend to mingle, to intervene in those situations. So I guess that other groups within Europe would see this as a determinant, their own quest or endeavor towards independence. It's not only the EU also that has been deteriorating, that is deteriorating towards this movement. I think member states also, they were only very shy, very shy words to offer to Spain, but also to Catalonia, mostly to Spain, but still shy by member states, by France, by Germany, which points towards much problematic things within the international law. That whole idea that all people have the right to self-determination actually lacks a definition. Any of you who's been studying social sciences know that you have to define your concepts, and you have to properly define them, otherwise you cannot end up with like a valid conclusion if you haven't defined anything anywhere. This is much problematic also because this idea of self-determination in people was mostly made at a time where decolonization was going very strongly. I've been questioning a lot myself in the past few weeks, months, about that whole idea of international law. What do you do when you have a people that wants its own independence, but then is not recognized by its neighbors, but also by international law? When you're not recognized as a people or recognized as having the right to become master of your home. So, and coming from Quebec, this is especially concerning for Canada, Quebec. So, I think we'll see a new era of regionalism within Europe, one that might still use the EU as some sort of institution that gave them leverage against their member states, but also as an institution that will hinder anything that comes close to total independence. And perhaps in this redefinition of the concept of regionalism, there will be ways for the EU to reform itself, to see it through, to see that what happened in Catalonia does not happen again in terms of brutality and violence. And maybe at some point the whole idealistic idea of Europe as a region might appear. Until then, we'll see. There's also, for the future, specifically for Scotland, you all know that Brexit is going on, and is hell, literally. Things are very complicated with Brexit. Uncertainties much to its highest you could imagine in the United Kingdom. Nicola Sturgeon, as I said earlier, did announce in March from this year that there will be a second independence referendum because Scotland had voted in favour, staying in the EU around 60%, 62%, if I remember well. And the SNP, the government, thought that this was a game changer and they should have the right to pronounce themselves again on the independence. This project of IndyRef2 has been cancelled ever since the general election, UK general elections, even though the Scottish Conservatives did not manage to have the majority they wanted to have, the strong and stable majority they wanted to have. They still managed to make impressive gains in Scotland. The SNP lost around 21 seats, I think. 21 seats going from 56 seats to 35. And the gains in Scotland were mainly due to the Scottish Conservative Party leader, Ruth Davidson, who is very, very liked in Scotland, simply because it seems to be that she's focusing on matters at the moment. Anyway, we'll see what happens in Scotland with Brexit. There might be a second independence referendum after we know more about the Brexit deal. We'll see.
Thank you very much for giving me. I very largely will try to say something interesting after that. In a more to the question the organization asked us, of course, regionalism and EU integration is compatible and it's hand in hand. In fact, EU empowered regions and I would say in countries where there are variants in the region, military states, it encouraged creation of these regions. So, in fact, Europe was available for regionalism. But when we arrive at separatism, everything is totally different. To illustrate the thing, I would just quote the first article of the NVA statutes. NVA is the Flemish nationalist party, and the first article say the goal of NVA is to have an independent Flemish state in a federal Europe. And the important thing is federal Europe. In a federal Europe, I think Catalonia will be independent today, but we are not in a federal Europe. Today, European Union is a union made of nation states, and these nations rule Europe. That's a fact. I'm not happy with that, but that's a fact. And it's true, well, more or less since the refusal of, previously I would say it's the refusal of European constitution by Dutch and French, more intelligently. And so, in fact, what is interesting with Catalan case, very interesting, it's that it confirms a clear message to other separatists. And the message is that it is forbidden to split, to create another country if you don't have an agreement with the central state. And it is not only in Europe, it's an international norm, it's an international behavior of states concerning recognition. In fact, there's always a debate between, conflict between two concepts in international relations. Right for people of self-determination versus the respect of sovereign state. And during the decolonization process, the first one won. In fact, the colonies in Africa and Asia won their independence without any agreement with the sovereign state. But since then, it is clear that all states in the world, except some few exceptions, they respect the sovereignty of other states and they will refuse independence made unilaterally. There is an exception. The exception is Kosovo. And the interesting thing with Kosovo is that the most important countries recognize Kosovo when they make the official declaration of recognition. They mention that it is an exception. It is a unique case, and you won't have any other case. So Catalonia is a very interesting case. But the answer is clear. And this is why it was rather surprising for most of people to see all European Union states support and the action of Muslim Army, even if it is, we can consider it anti-democratic. After that, we could discuss this position is more political. Yes, stick to the facts for the moment. But because it's not really because I think because states in Europe they fear independence for their own region. In fact, in Europe, if you see throughout Europe, there are only two regions who are, let's say, on the verge to be just close, possibly close to independence. It is Scotland and Catalonia. And a part of that, I will speak a bit later about Flanders, but a part of that, the real movement throughout Europe, in many regions, is autonomist, is an autonomist government. And it's not independence, and when you have parties for independence, they are very small. But this is interesting to see why European states refuse not only Catalan independence, but only the possibility for Catalans to have a referendum unilaterally. And the important thing is unilaterally. I think they are afraid that, not for independence, but one day, we have some referendum in North Africa, one day a rich region of not rich, make a referendum, totally democratic, and that people decide democratically that they won't pay taxes to the central state because they are not happy how the central state manage the thing, for example. So we touch things very fundamental for state, and in fact the problem with separatism is that to remember all states that they are only creations and they can disappear and they don't want to be remembered about that. So I'll just speak a bit about Flemish movement and NVA, who is the main separatist party in Flanders. And to say clearly, I would think that the independentist movement in Flanders is dead, or almost dead. Why? What happens? It's because NVA is now participating at the federal level, the federal government. I mean, it's interesting to have a comparison with other countries and other separatist parties. In Quebec, Quebec's separatists, they never participate in the Canadian government and never think about it. In Scotland, same thing. And in Spain, it's more complicated. They participate, but they are very tiny parties, and well, in Spain, and they always participate in exchange of more autonomy or something. And now NVR decided to participate in federal government, not without any reference state, without any more autonomy. And there was a split inside and a small split inside NVR when the president said that the goal of the next election is to participate with the federal government even if there's no more autonomy for Flanders. And in fact, they say it's typically Belgian expression. We said they put the thing in the fridge. And we put the thing in the fridge for 5 years, and so basically he said we put it in the fridge for 5 more years after 10 years. And when Flemish, nationalist Flemish political scientists say that, well, if you put something in the fridge for 10 years after that, it's very useful. You can't do anything with it. So, we could say that the Belgian system with a compromise, let's say compromission, it has integrated NVR in the system, and there is now part of this is part of the Belgian system, and it is transforming, and it's already the case now for a party which is not conservative right party, totally typical one, and more open to an autonomist. And they demonstrate some solidarity with Galles Puigdemont and Catalan goals, but they don't make anything really specific about that.
Before opening up the debate, and so that you can ask questions, I just have a couple of very, very brief questions for the panel. And they're both on the compatibility that we've been discussing between, let's say, independence seeking and EU integration. The first question is normative. And it's the following: if we all agree, and I think that the panel has agreed, that Europe is formed of powerful nation states, and the concept of the Europe of the regions doesn't really exist in reality, and that I think we can recognize the flaws in that structure, if you like. So, if regionalism is, or independence seeking is a way of bypassing that nation state, where does that leave us with regards to the European project? Doesn't that complicate things even more? Wouldn't we end up with potentially endless regions in Europe? That is the normative question. The more pragmatic question is what happens in Catalonia after the 21st of December? And because, of course, we can make a case for or against independence, but the reality is that there was a unilateral declaration of independence, as I said, in October, and it had no international recognition, and more importantly, not enough internal support from the population, of course. So what happens in Catalonia? How are these demands for independence canalized from now on, and is it possible for independence to happen anytime soon?
Yeah. Great. I'm beginning for the last one. I don't know what will happen the 21st of December, either the 22nd of December, or the 23rd of December, or the 1st of January. I don't know. Many things have happened in Catalonia in the last 7 years. I had never imagined that we would organize a referendum against the will of the Spanish state and Spanish government. I had never imagined that I would see people being beaten in the ballot boxes and still queuing to vote. I would never imagine that I would myself tell families, please go home. I would never imagine that I would say, my politicians, go to prison, or risking being banned from office, or losing their wealth, their homes, their second homes. So there are many things that it's impossible to see what's going to happen in Catalonia. But what is very clear is that the 21st of December, if it's a fair election, could be a good test to see if the Declaration of Independence and the roadmap of the Catalan government in the last years is supported by the population. There is quite a strong possibility that 50% of the Catalan people will vote for pro-independence parties in the next 21st of December. There is a strong possibility that this could happen. What would happen afterwards? I don't know. But one thing is for certain, that democracy will be reestablished in Catalonia. Because today, in Catalonia, there is no parliament. There is no government. Well, government is either in prison or exiled. Many of the high-ranking officials of the government have been fired by the Spanish government. There are people from the Spanish ministries deciding things in the Catalan government. There are 2 civil society leaders in prison, in preventive prison, because they organized a demonstration, and they are called sedition, and they are risking 20 and 30 years. The same as the Catalan politicians. So I don't know what's going to happen, but for sure, if the Catalan parties win, democracy in a way will be reestablished in Catalonia. That's one thing. The other thing you were asking, I think it's very interesting. You were saying, are there not going to be too many countries, and if it was compatible, the EU with independence? I think that it's not that the EU is compatible only, but the EU gives incentives for independence. Probably many of you have not read this book, and it's called The Size of Nations. It's from Roberto Alesina and Sporore. They are 2 professors from Harvard. And this really interesting book explains how small states are more prepared to be adapted to globalization. And that in a time when your market is not only your nation state, it's not only the 40 million people of the Spanish state, but the 500 million people of the EU, or even the 6 billion of the world, you have less incentives to stay in a state that mistreats you in an identity or political way. So it's all interlinked. The fact that the European Union exists gives more incentives for many Catalans to become independent, to be part themselves of a bigger project where they can be one of the parts. So this is very important. And there was also too many countries, you say. Too many countries.
Not too many,
yes,
considering the current state of how the EU is run.
Yeah,
and the fact that it's
but is it working well now? Is it working well now, the European Union? Is the Europe at 28 is going to work better than the Europe at 29? Is this really the problem of Europe? Is this really the problem of Europe that there are 29 instead of 28? Isn't it maybe unanimity? Maybe that many states say that they are pro-European but they are not, because in the end they try to conserve their power? Isn't it? There are many other things that we don't give them enough power to the European Union, that the Commission acts as a secretariat of the Council, that the Commission acts just following orders from the Member States. Isn't this the real problem? And I'm wondering, isn't it a need for more democracy in Europe? Isn't it a need to have political leaders in Europe that are directly elected by the people? I mean, isn't it that maybe Catalonia becoming independent inside the EU would be one of the forces bringing us to a more federal Europe, where all nation states don't have so much power? Maybe the independence of Catalonia is precisely the structural reform that Europe needs to federalize more, to give real power to the people, and to be more properly equipped in order to fight with the challenges of the 21st century.
So, the first question, Europe regions. I think Europe is actually a powerhouse for regionalism and influence for regions. Actually, you have all those offices around the area here, Scotland office, or regional office. Scotland, Catalonia, German Flanders also have some. French regions, if I'm correct, also have some, and they all have powers to lobby to the Commission, the Parliament, the Council. So in some way they're able to bypass their national states. They're also, but the other way around, also the Commission and the Parliament are able to bypass member states towards regions. So it's like a triangle where they all influence each other, where some have more power than others. Obviously, member states, nation states have more power than regions. But it doesn't mean that the regions are not able to work this out, working around the problematic. Independent regions, I think, would be the no-go for the EU, obviously, because it would create tons of problems, but also because in order to work out, you probably need every member state to agree into letting their regions leave or seceding or become independent, and then all join together for more decentralized but yet centralized Europe, where nation states don't have power anymore. It's all about regions. I just see a lot of complexity in that. Maybe not impossible, but very complex. And also ultimately for Catalonia, what is going to happen next year? No idea. I know, but it'll be very interesting to see whether the Nationalist Party is again elected, and what will be the response of Madrid and Brussels and other member states. Now we'll be able to see truly whether the EU cares at all with the situation or not.
I will begin to answer the last question, which is more simpler. What will happen at the election, I don't know. But most probably, I would say nothing and a blockade. Because if the Independence Party have a majority, most probably nothing. We will have the confrontation with Madrid will go on, and on the other case, in the non-independent party, we will have to form a government with Podemos and Partido Popular. I don't know what we will do this. Maybe they will go back to, let's say, normality, but it will be very difficult. About the possibility to bypass national state, for me, of course regions interact with European Union directly, but for only some aspects, and for the aspects that the member states want they do, permit them to do. For essential things, and secession, independence, creating the new states are essential things. All these kind of things you can bypass member states. You have to realize basically that all people in this room who are European citizens of the European Union, they are citizens of the European Union only because they are citizens of the country which is a member of the Union. Basically, that's all. And all of the regions, Catalonia, Scotland, all of them, they are representation here in Brussels only because the country they belong is a member state of the Union. So it's good.
I think Anish wanted to add a comment, and just a very brief point of clarification as well. The question wasn't, now it's been answered of course, but it wasn't so much what will happen in Catalonia after the election. It was more how to canalize the support for independence, given that in 2015 there was already a majority pro-independence party in the Catalan parliament.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment because Mr. Labordery here said something that I've been thinking about the last few weeks and months. You said, if the pro-independence parties win, what will happen most probably? Nothing. Nothing. So, you can win an election and nothing happens. you could try, you can have a mandate to do a referendum, but you cannot do it. You could win a referendum and then don't be able to apply independence. So, what is democracy worth? What is democracy worth? If you can win in the ballot boxes, but you cannot apply the results, if you cannot move, then what are we saying? I think that this is a very important point, because my feeling is that in Europe, what makes Europe Europe, from my point of view, is that at some point in time we decided that the big decisions of our lives would be taken in the ballot box or in the parliamentary or in parliaments. If the decisions taken in the ballot box or parliaments cannot be applied, where does that leave European democracy? Have we reached the limits of European democracy as we understand it today? What does it mean for the future? And it's even more creepy when you think that we have member states in Europe today, in the European Union, that had civil wars not so many years ago, and they are fully recognized. And what's the message? Then these countries that had a civil war are recognized and are part of the European Union, but Catalonia, that is doing it through a non-violent, peaceful, democratic way, through a referendum, it's not possible to be independent. I don't know, it's giving me the creeps, this kind of argument, because if elections cannot change nothing, if referendums cannot change nothing, what message are we sending to the people?
Someone wants to react.
It could change something, but the thing is that for the referendum, and I would say every independentist party will win the next election. Win the next election. The thing is that the majority for independence is uncertain or not clear enough. Well, not for big for bigger states to say that there is a democratic problem. There is a debate. It was in Quebec for the second independence referendum of Quebec. In fact, at the time, the Canadian government let the referendum play, but they said that they won't recognize the result only if it is clear that there is a clear majority of Quebec people who want to secede from to leave Canada. They never said what is clear. That is a large majority. The only idea is that it's something complicated, and you have more than 50% plus one vote to decide this kind of vote. The referendum will take place in Catalonia. In fact, the condition, well, it's complicated because the bad condition is not it's because of Madrid's refusal. But anyway, in this condition, there's no clear majority, and it's clear that Catalonia is split in two halves, and we don't know which is the biggest half. But we don't know there is more than 50%, a bit more than 50% who want independence, or a bit more than 50% who want to remain in Spain. But well, I would say for this kind of thing, we can understand the argument. So if you want to say that for some important things, you have a qualified majority of the voters.
When we take questions on the